The green engine of finance. Every era of finance is defined by the rails it runs on. Gold backed the first global trade systems. Paper money fueled the rise of nation-states. Digital ledgers built swift and modern banking. And now, blockchain is emerging as the infrastructure for the next generation of value. But if the world is going to trust a new foundation, it has to be more than fast or cheap. It has to be scalable, sustainable, secure, trusted by institutions. Enter Algorand. Unlike many blockchains that were born in chaos, Algorand was designed from day one as a solution for global finance. Created by Silvio Micali, an MIT cryptographer and Turing Award winner, Algorand wasn't just another experiment. It was built with a specific mission: to solve the blockchain trilemma, speed, security, and decentralization, without compromise. And it did so using a unique design, pure proof of stake. The result? A blockchain that processes thousands of transactions per second, finalizes in seconds, and consumes a fraction of the energy of proof-of-work systems like Bitcoin. Where Bitcoin became a target for environmental critics, Algorand positioned itself as the green blockchain, energy-efficient, carbon-neutral, and scalable enough to handle not just crypto speculation, but the real economy. This made it attractive to institutions and governments from the start. While other blockchains chased hype and retail adoption, Algorand built quietly in the background, winning pilots for central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, tokenized assets, and national digital initiatives. The Marshall Islands even selected Algorand to power its official digital currency, the SOV. In Europe, projects have explored using Algorand for bond issuance and settlement. Across the globe, it has been tested as a platform for CBDCs, stablecoins, and tokenized assets. But Algorand's story isn't just about being green or scalable. It's about being positioned as the infrastructure governments and institutions can actually trust. In a world where adoption is shifting from retail speculation to institutional implementation, that distinction is everything. This is what makes Algorand different from most crypto projects. It isn't trying to be the people's meme coin or the wild frontier of DeFi. It's positioning itself as the engine for regulated finance. A chain that central banks can issue currencies on. A chain that institutions can tokenize trillions in assets with. A chain that can integrate seamlessly into the ISO 2022-driven world of financial messaging. For XRP, the mission was liquidity. For Stellar, inclusion. For XDC, trade finance. For Quant, interoperability. For Flare, smart contracts and data. Algorand enters the stage with a different promise: to be the green rails of the new financial system. Trusted by governments, scalable for institutions, and sustainable for the planet. The stakes could not be higher. As climate change reshapes policy, governments are under pressure to find sustainable infrastructure. As financial systems evolve, central banks are under pressure to issue digital currencies that work at scale. As markets tokenize, institutions are under pressure to build on rails that regulators will approve. Algorand sits at the crossroads of all three. This is the story of a blockchain designed not for hype, but for history, not to dominate retail headlines, but to anchor institutional adoption, not to gamble on speculation, but to quietly become the green engine of finance. Welcome to Algorand, the untold story of ALGO. Part 1. The birth of Algorand. Every great innovation begins with a visionary asking a simple but impossible question. For Bitcoin it was, can money exist without a central authority? For Ethereum it was, can code run on a decentralized network? For Algorand, the question came from Silvio Micali, an MIT professor, cryptographer, and one of the most respected figures in computer science. Can a blockchain truly scale without sacrificing security or decentralization? This question wasn't asked by a startup founder chasing hype. Micali had already won the Turing Award, the Nobel Prize of Computing, for his work on cryptographic protocols. His career was dedicated to solving problems of trust, consensus, and security. And when blockchain exploded onto the scene, he saw both its promise and its limitations. The problem was the blockchain trilemma. A network could be decentralized and secure, but not scalable, like Bitcoin. Or it could be scalable and decentralized, but weak in security. Or scalable and secure, but centralized. No blockchain had achieved all three, and without solving this, global adoption was impossible. Micali believed he had the answer. The solution wasn't proof of work like Bitcoin with its energy waste and slow throughput. nor was it traditional proof-of-stake systems that risked centralization. Instead, he proposed something new, pure proof-of-stake, PPOS. In Algorand's PPOS, consensus isn't determined by energy or wealth concentration. Instead, it's achieved through a process of verifiable random selection. Any token holder can be chosen, randomly, securely, and fairly, to propose and validate blocks. The randomness ensures no single party can predict or control the process, protecting decentralization. The efficiency ensures scalability, allowing thousands of transactions per second. And the security remains intact, because the system can withstand malicious actors without collapsing. With this design, Micali launched Algorand in 2019. It wasn't marketed as a meme coin or a speculative gamble. It was presented as a scientific breakthrough, a blockchain capable of achieving what others could not. Transactions finalized in seconds. Energy consumption was negligible. The system was built to scale without compromise. This foundation gave Algorand a powerful narrative. While Bitcoin was criticized for environmental harm, Algorand became carbon negative. While Ethereum battled congestion and high fees, Algorand offered speed and efficiency. While other chains were plagued by centralization fears, Algorand emphasized fairness, inclusivity, and security. The birth of Algorand also carried a cultural weight. Unlike most projects launched by anonymous founders or venture-backed startups, Algorand came from academia, from one of the most respected cryptographers in the world. This gave it credibility with institutions and governments that were skeptical of crypto's chaotic origins. When central banks or policymakers evaluated blockchain options, Algorand's pedigree stood out. From the beginning, Algorand aimed higher than retail adoption. Its mission was global finance. Silvio Micali spoke openly about building a system for central banks, enterprises, and governments, not just for speculative traders. He envisioned Algorand as the rails for CBDCs, tokenized securities, and real-world assets. The launch of Algorand was, in many ways, the launch of a philosophy. That blockchain could be elegant, efficient, and sustainable. That it could scale to billions of users without destroying the planet. That it could be trusted not just by early adopters, but by the institutions that govern the financial world. Other blockchains promised revolutions. Algorand promised infrastructure. And while revolutions capture headlines, infrastructure builds history. The birth of Algorand was the birth of an idea that blockchain didn't need to be a compromise. It could be fast, secure, decentralized, and green, and all at once. A system not just for traders and speculators, but for nations and industries. But building the technology was only the first step. The true test of Algorand would come in proving its value to the world. Could it actually win adoption from governments and enterprises? Could it move from theory to practice? The answer would unfold in its growing role in CBDC pilots, tokenized markets, and the broader movement toward a sustainable financial future. Part 2. Algorand and CBDCs. If the blockchain revolution is going to transform global finance, it will not be through memes, hype coins, or retail speculation. It will be through the slow, careful adoption by the most conservative institutions on Earth, central banks. Central banks are the gatekeepers of money itself. They don't move quickly. They don't take risks. They demand systems that are secure, compliant, and resilient. And increasingly, they are under pressure to issue central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. These new forms of digital money promise efficiency, programmability, and cross-border interoperability, but they require rails that governments can trust. This is where Algorand found its place. From the beginning, Algorand positioned itself not as a chain for speculation, but as a chain for sovereign adoption. Its speed, scalability, and energy efficiency made it an attractive choice for CBDC pilots. Unlike Bitcoin, it wasn't wasteful. Unlike Ethereum, it wasn't congested or expensive. Unlike experimental chains, it wasn't unproven. Algorand was designed as infrastructure, predictable, reliable, and elegant. One of the first nations to act was the Marshall Islands. In 2020, they announced their plans to issue the sovereign SOV, the world's first national digital currency, on the Algorand blockchain. It was a small country, but a bold statement. If a sovereign state trusted Algorand to issue money, others could follow. Algorand also began to attract projects focused on stablecoins and tokenized assets. From regulated stablecoins in Europe to pilots for tokenized government bonds, The network proved it could handle real financial instruments with compliance in mind. In Italy, Algorand was tested for digital securities. In Latin America, it became part of fintech pilots bridging local currencies and tokenized rails. But perhaps the most powerful part of Algorand's CBDC pitch was its green narrative. As policymakers worldwide grappled with climate change, Bitcoin's energy usage became a political liability. How could governments justify building financial infrastructure on systems that consumed as much energy as entire countries? Algorand's carbon-negative design gave it a compelling edge. It wasn't just scalable and secure, it was sustainable. For policymakers facing climate mandates that mattered, CBDCs are about more than just digital cash. They are about data-rich money, programmable, traceable, and integrated with financial messaging standards like ISO 2022. Algorand's technology aligned naturally with this. It could support high-volume transactions, embed metadata, and connect with broader tokenization systems. This made it a candidate not just for CBDCs, but for the broader transformation of financial markets. Algorand's role in CBDCs also tied it to the growing movement of tokenization. Central banks weren't the only ones exploring digital rails. Private banks and asset managers were looking at tokenized securities, real estate, commodities, and trade finance. These assets would require chains that were scalable, compliant, and efficient. Algorand's structure and its reputation for institutional credibility made it a natural fit. This alignment gave Algorand a unique identity. It wasn't the chain of memes or maximalists, it was the chain of pilots, partnerships, and proofs of concept. While retail investors often overlooked it in favor of more volatile projects, governments and enterprises quietly explored its rails. Algorand was building adoption not through hype but through trust. The story of Algorand and CBDCs shows us a glimpse of the future, a world where money itself becomes programmable, a world where digital currencies can settle instantly across borders, with full compliance and traceability, a world where central banks maintain control but operate on rails built for the 21st century. And in that world, Algorand could be the silent engine, not the most famous blockchain, not the one making headlines every week, but the one governments rely on when it matters most. For the blockchain industry, that distinction is critical. Speculative value comes and goes, but institutional trust once earned can last for decades. Algorand's entry into CBDCs may be the most important step in its journey, not just as a blockchain, but as a foundation for the future of money itself. Part 3. Algorand and the Green Narrative. Every revolution carries not only the weight of what it builds, but also the shadow of what it destroys. For blockchain, that shadow was its environmental impact. As Bitcoin soared in adoption, critics began to calculate its cost. Mining farms in China consumed vast amounts of coal-based electricity. Headlines warned that Bitcoin used as much power as small nations. Ethereum, though smaller, still demanded massive energy to secure its network. Policymakers, environmentalists, and even mainstream investors began to ask, how can a technology that claims to be the future of finance be sustainable if it accelerates climate change? This was the weakness Algorand was designed to exploit. From the start, Silvio Micali made sustainability a pillar of Algorand's identity. Its consensus system, pure proof of stake, PPOS, required no energy-intensive mining. Instead of warehouses of machines racing to solve puzzles, Algorand relied on random selection of validators. The energy cost was negligible. A single transaction on Algorand consumed less power than sending an email. By 2021, Algorand went a step further. It became carbon negative. Partnering with organizations that measure and offset emissions, Algorand committed not only to being efficient, but to actively removing more carbon from the environment than it produced. It wasn't just green, it was climate positive. This mattered more than most people realized. Because while retail traders rarely worried about sustainability, institutions and governments did. Central banks answer to policymakers. Asset managers answer to ESG mandates. Enterprises answer to climate regulations. In that context, building on Algorand wasn't just a technical choice. It was a political and reputational one. Algorand became the blockchain of sustainable finance. When governments explored green bonds, carbon credit markets, or climate-friendly CBDCs, Algorand was at the table. Its identity aligned perfectly with global priorities. In an era where climate was not just an environmental issue but an economic one, Algorand positioned itself as the blockchain of choice for those seeking credibility. The green narrative also became part of its branding to the crypto world. While Bitcoin maximalists defended proof of work as a feature, Algorand marketed itself as the future, clean, efficient, and scalable. In a time when headlines painted crypto as an environmental disaster, Algorand offered a counterpoint, proof that blockchain could be part of the solution, not the problem. This narrative extended to tokenization. As markets began exploring digital assets tied to carbon credits, renewable energy, and ESG investments, Algorand's positioning gave it a natural advantage. It wasn't just a chain for financial rails. It was a chain for sustainable markets. Projects exploring green finance, tokenized carbon offsets, and environmentally conscious DeFi protocols gravitated toward it. For investors, this identity was double-edged. On one hand, Algorand was often overlooked in retail hype cycles. Meme coins and volatile assets drew the attention of speculative traders. On the other hand, Algorand's credibility with institutions meant it was building foundations retail couldn't see. While others rose and crashed with hype, Algorand accumulated partnerships, pilots, and trust. The importance of sustainability in finance cannot be overstated. Global regulators are embedding climate risk into policy. Asset managers with trillions under management are bound by ESG frameworks. Governments are aligning their economies around green commitments. In that environment, a blockchain that can claim to be climate positive isn't just a technology, it's a strategic advantage. Algorand understood this. Its green narrative wasn't an afterthought. It was part of its DNA, a message carefully crafted to appeal not to speculators, but to policymakers and institutions. It wasn't promising to be the fastest meme coin or the highest yield DeFi chain. It was promising to be the responsible infrastructure for the financial future. The green engine of finance. That was Algorand's story. And as climate pressures intensify, it may prove to be one of the most important narratives in all of blockchain. But sustainability was only one piece of the puzzle. Algorand's true test would come not in marketing, but in real adoption. Could it convince banks, enterprises, and governments to actually use it? Could it prove that its technology wasn't just elegant in theory, but powerful in practice? The answer would come in its growing list of partnerships and integrations. Part 4. Algorand in action. Technology alone doesn't change the world. Adoption does. And in blockchain, adoption has always been the hardest barrier. For every chain with brilliant code, there are dozens that never find a purpose. For Algorand, the test was clear. Could it move from elegant theory into real-world practice? The answer began with partnerships. From its earliest days, Algorand was approached by institutions and enterprises that wanted a blockchain capable of handling serious workloads. It wasn't speculation or meme hype that drew them in. It was Algorand's reputation for speed, security, and sustainability. This made it a natural fit for industries exploring tokenization, digital currencies, and regulated finance. In the financial world, bond markets were among the first to test Algorand's rails. In Italy, Algorand was used in experiments to tokenize and settle government bonds, showing how public debt could one day be issued and traded instantly on blockchain. This wasn't a meme coin trading game. It was a glimpse of trillion-dollar markets moving onto decentralized rails. At the same time, Algorand began attracting projects in stablecoins. Europe's first regulated stablecoins were piloted on its network. In Latin America, fintech platforms explored Algorand to bridge between local currencies and digital tokens, providing liquidity for payments and remittances. Each project reinforced Algorand's role not as a playground, but as infrastructure. Then came one of its most symbolic partnerships, the Marshall Islands sovereign, SOV. When the tiny island nation announced it would issue a national digital currency on Algorand, the crypto world took notice. While the SOV has faced regulatory hurdles, the choice of Algorand sent a powerful message. Sovereign states were willing to build on its rails. If one country could take that leap, others could follow. Algorand's green credentials also made it a magnet for projects tied to sustainability. Platforms experimenting with carbon credits and environmental markets looked to Algorand as the blockchain that could host tokenized ecosystems without hypocrisy. If the future of finance was going to include climate-focused investment products, Algorand offered the rails to make them credible. Beyond finance, Algorand reached into the arts and culture sector. Institutions like the Italian Society of Authors and Publishers, SIAE, used Algorand to tokenize millions of copyrights, demonstrating how intellectual property could be digitized and managed more transparently. This showed that Algorand's utility extended beyond finance into areas of rights management and digital identity. The Algorand Foundation also played a key role in nurturing adoption, funding developers and startups to build decentralized applications on its rails. These ranged from DeFi protocols to NFT marketplaces, each leveraging Algorand's low fees and fast finality. While Ethereum and Solana dominated NFT headlines, Algorand quietly carved out a niche for creators who wanted sustainable, low-cost platforms. One of Algorand's strengths has been its ability to bridge traditional finance and decentralized innovation. By supporting ISO 2022 messaging standards and building with compliance in mind, Algorand positioned itself as a blockchain institutions could actually adopt. At the same time, its developer-friendly tools and green narrative attracted innovators who wanted to build responsibly. For retail investors, this sometimes made Algorand seem less exciting. It didn't dominate headlines like Ethereum or ride meme waves like Dogecoin, but beneath the surface it was building credibility in the places that mattered most. For central banks, for asset managers, for enterprises exploring tokenization, Algorand was not a gamble. It was a partner. In action, Algorand has proven it can host national digital currencies, tokenize government bonds, issue stablecoins, manage copyrights, and build sustainable finance platforms. Each project may seem small on its own, but together they form a picture. A blockchain not built for noise but for utility. This is Algorand's quiet strength. While others chase speculation, it has focused on integration. While others promise revolutions, it has delivered pilots. While others rise and fall with hype, Algorand has slowly, steadily built trust. But the question remains, what does this mean for Algorand's future? Can it scale from pilots to global adoption? Can it transform from a promising chain to the green engine of the world's financial system? That answer lies in the road ahead, in how Algorand positions itself not just as technology, but as indispensable infrastructure. Part 5. The future of Algorand. The world is racing toward a digital financial system. Trillions in assets will be tokenized. Central banks will issue digital currencies. Enterprises will demand rails that are fast, secure, compliant, and sustainable. And in that race, every blockchain will make its case for why it should be chosen. Algorand's case is simple. It was built for this. Unlike the noisy hype coins or the experimental ecosystems that stumble under pressure, Algorand's identity has always been rooted in credibility. Its founder, Silvio Micali, is not an anonymous developer. He is a Turing Award-winning cryptographer with a career of solving problems of trust and consensus. Its consensus model, pure proof of stake, is not a compromise. It's a breakthrough designed to scale without sacrificing decentralization or security. And its sustainability credentials are not marketing spin. They are embedded in its very DNA, carbon negative, energy efficient, and future-proof. In a world where CBDCs are inevitable, Algorand offers rails governments can adopt without political backlash over energy use or scalability. In a world where tokenization is transforming securities, commodities, and even intellectual property, Algorand provides rails where institutions can safely experiment. And in a world where sustainable finance is becoming a global mandate, Algorand stands out as the chain aligned with climate goals, not opposed to them. The future of Algorand may not be in dominating headlines. It may not become the chain of memes or speculative bubbles. Instead, its destiny lies in becoming the quiet engine of digital finance. A system embedded in CBDCs, a system hosting tokenized securities, a system trusted by governments and institutions that will never gamble on unstable or unsustainable alternatives. In this vision, retail traders may overlook Algorand. But behind the scenes, it powers the rails of trillion-dollar markets. Its partnerships, pilots, and integrations quietly expand. Its credibility grows. And as adoption scales, its role as the green engine of finance becomes impossible to ignore. Of course, challenges remain. Competing blockchains will fight for CBDC adoption. Ethereum's dominance in DeFi and NFTs still casts a long shadow. New chains will emerge with bold promises. But Algorand has one advantage others cannot replicate. It doesn't need to change who it is. It was built for this moment from the beginning. When the world's financial system looks for a blockchain that is scalable, secure, compliant, and sustainable, Algorand will already be there, not shouting for attention, not chasing hype, simply doing what it was designed to do. That is the quiet power of Algorand, not to be the loudest voice, but to be the most reliable engine, not to dominate with speculation, but to win with trust, not to promise revolutions, but to build the rails for the next chapter of finance. In the end, Bitcoin may remain digital gold. Ethereum may remain the pioneer of programmable contracts. XRP may bridge the banks. Stellar may serve the people. XDC may digitize trade. Quant may connect them all. Flare may ignite the spark of data. But Algorand? Algorand may be remembered as the green engine of global finance, the rails that powered the sustainable tokenized economy of the future. The green engine Algorand was never meant to be a meme coin or a hype machine. It was designed to be infrastructure, to solve the blockchain trilemma, to be sustainable when others consumed nations' worth of power, to give governments, enterprises, and institutions rails they could actually trust. While Bitcoin may be digital gold, Ethereum the pioneer of smart contracts, XRP the bridge for banks, Stellar the chain for inclusion, XDC the engine of trade, Quant the operating system, and Flare the spark of data, Algorand is the green engine of finance, the rails for CBDCs, the platform for tokenization, the blockchain aligned with the most powerful mandate of our time, sustainability. It won't always make headlines. It won't always dominate speculation. But when the world asks which blockchain can run the future of money, fast, secure, compliant, and carbon negative, Algorand's answer will be quiet. Simple and undeniable. I was built for this. Here at LTL Productions, we tell the untold stories of crypto, the ones that matter long after the hype fades. If you believe in the Internet of Value, if you want to understand the rails that will power it, you're in the right place. Subscribe to LTL Productions right now. Share this video with someone who still thinks crypto is just speculation. And join us as we reveal the networks building the financial system of tomorrow. This is LTL Productions. Don't just watch the rails. Understand the engine driving them.